Hello, I'm Mr. Pibbles, but you can call me Peter, and welcome back to our lovely challenge park here in Planet Coaster 2. And the last episode we got all of this done, kind of adding in our framework for our rides, and a bit of an opening plaza, and in today's episode I'm just going to keep on kind of getting at it, getting a little bit of this done, a little bit of that done, a little bit of that done, and hopefully we'll have something a little bit more nice. Roll the time lapse. Yes, welcome to the time lapse. This is obviously the main event of this. I mean, who'd ever want the other fella, but there we go. So what we're doing in today's episode is we are focusing mainly on our lovely swinging ship ride, the HMS Victorious, which name I came up with for, ooh, that's kind of funny, and then I've stuck with it. So you'll see what I'm doing now is I'm adding a bit of a foundation, just making it kind of look like it's supposed to be sunk into the ground. The annoying thing was that I'd put it down like this so that I couldn't cleanly get it in kind of triangle slopes, because it was in 4 instead of 2, so I couldn't do 0.5 meter slopes, which annoying, but we move. And I know I could have found some other workaround for it, but I think this was just slightly cleaner. And yeah, so we've got that done, and as I say, it's now just adding these fences and making this look nice, because as I mentioned in the previous episode, scenery score is a big thing with this whole park and challenge mode in general, so it's just making it look nice enough to kind of feel like it's supposed to be here, and so that guests like it, and they seem to. You'll notice that the big thing that I'm trying to get in this episode is to make the park nice enough to attract 100 guests to complete the challenge that is bring 100 guests in, which gives you money, so I can't complain too much. And in terms of what sort of vibe I was going for with this, it was almost very light theming. I mean, if you saw my last episode, you'll know that I wanted this to feel sort of family fun park, budget, all of that. So the theming's not overly massive, but what I have done is kind of added some fences, added some canopies for the shade, and just made it feel a little nice, as it were. It has that very rustic feel, which is the major thing I was going for. Sort of, it's your family-owned kind of small park that maybe expands out kind of once it's bought over by something bigger, but that's something we can figure out later as we go along. But yes, these painted western fences I really like, because they just have a nice look to them, especially in this brown. Kind of in the white, they're a bit too jarring, I think, for something like this, but I think what we ended up with was nice for the HMS Victorious. Named so because of the ship that obviously lives in London, the HMS Victory, and I thought the HMS Victorious sounds like a knockoff enough of a name to kind of fit and sound kind of silly enough to fit within the world of this little park. So now you'll see what I'm trying to do is get some planters down the side, because I thought that actually plants would be a really nice way to get some stuff in and get just some cheap theming. It's kind of like I would go all out, put pirates and structures and wood all over this, but it's not necessarily realistic. So I think by putting these little planters in, which I do fill up with some plants later, it just looks nice. And as you see, I'm going down the other side. Maybe these planters are a little bit upmarket and upscale from what I'd expect. But if we sell the story that it's fake knockoff marble, then maybe it's all right. Who knows? Getting these fences in the right place was something that kind of I wanted to get right, and I think ultimately they look nice. I do want to come back at some later point and add sort of, your ride sign onto the front, but I can do that later. So I'm now putting these little plants in. There's a number of things that I do. I go through all these different plants, and I end up with these rhododendrons, which I just thought looked kind of nice. Yeah, they're a bit big, but actually I didn't necessarily want a tree, and I thought they're nice and bright and vibrant, and they kind of fit. And then I found these box hedges, and actually I thought they work well, and they just add a little bit more green around kind of what would be just, a solid planter. But yes, so ultimately what I'm wanting to do with this whole project is make something that feels nostalgic and feels nice. I mean, I've been kind of into playing these games and watching people play these games for years now, and I just wanted to make my own mark, like this heather here, and I thought putting some heather in, it's nice, it adds the purple. That was possibly a little bit too much, hence why I go back down to just a little bit, and then add these periwinkles in, because they just look okay, and they add just a little bit of colour without, doing too much. And then I do that, it looks okay. But yeah, as I say, I've wanted to start something like this for a while, and now that I'm actually starting it, it's fun. You'll have to excuse my my lack of competency in commentary. This is the first time I've really tried commentary, but I think it's okay. And if you're enjoying it, or if you want me to talk more, talk less, then let me know. And that's when I figure out people are getting sunburnt waiting in line for this. So, of course, they could go buy sun cream, which, I've got a sun cream store. They can go get it from the guest services, but actually, I thought if I put some canopies over the ride, it seems alright. And you see what I do is I get these market canopies from the Greek theme pack, the mythology theme pack, and I think they just work alright as like a general tarp. Sort of in our park colours of this blue, and again, I think it looks nice. It kind of adds... It adds a little bit to the queue, so the queue isn't just, switchbacks going back and forth, snaking around in the sun. It's more kind of you've got something there, and I did decide to put them on a slant because it would have been a bit awkward to put them in the middle of the paths, which you can see I'm having a bit of trouble with, but I get there eventually. I always do. But yeah, so a little bit of context about kind of the park itself and where it is. This whole place, Pibbleville, which, the place is named after the Pibbleville Family Fun Park. I originally named my biggest project in Planet Zoo, the Pibbleville Zoo, which was kind of a little bit of a fun idea of sort of a slightly kind of intercity zoo that, again, I abandoned it, but it looked okay from where it was, and hence Pibbleville was born, and now I'm making a family fun park there. And one of the greatest things about Planet Coaster 2 is the fact that you can add scenery to rides, but it gets a little bit annoying when the rides start moving, which is on me for going, ooh, I can add this in, and then not actually making it make sense. But I thought adding things like this mast, I had a bit of an anchor in a bit, it all adds sort of theming, like light theming to the ride itself, and makes it more interesting than just a boat. And I might come back at a later date and add a little bit more, but for now I like what I've got. And you'll see on the end of this here, I'm trying to find a pole to stick on the end to be sort of your pole at the end. I give up on that, and instead I find this anchor which I stick there, which looks okay. I mean, I think that's the whole kind of vibe of this, in that it looks okay. I'm not a master builder, I'm not a god at this. I don't necessarily know what I'm doing. I'm just making it up as I go along, and I think it looks okay. I'd love to do a little bit more if I had the time and money in-game, but kind of, it is what it is. And now you'll see I'm adding just a little bit of theming around the ride itself, just because I thought it needed a little bit more than just, you know, solid stone base and kind of metal pillars. I thought if I add these nice kind of boatyard pieces, it kind of adds that little bit of oomph that makes it look a little bit nicer. Sort of, you'll see the crane there, the two ship skeletons, and now I'm adding in these barrel planters, which again adds just a little bit of greenery without necessarily doing much. I toyed with the idea of having cannons and then gave up on it because I thought it would be too big, and then you'll notice the flash of the Grand Galleon there. I toyed with it and then went, no, it's too big. And again, I'm toying with these ship wheels and ship pieces and stuff, and then I find these sail canopies. Now I know they're from the pirate stuff in the original game, and I thought actually, you know, we've got the canopies over the queue. We might as well put them over this bit of the ride itself, just to add that little bit of spice. I added an extra ride attendant so that we always have at least somebody on each of the rides at the moment, just because, you know, it'll get a bit tedious if, you know, I'm waiting to make money and there's nobody there to make money. And you'll see now I'm adding kind of these colours onto the ride. I've mainly gone for a brown and blue colour scheme with this because obviously sun, sea, sky, and the ship itself, kind of, I thought that would be kind of cool. And as well as that, I have kind of gone for blue as the unofficial colour of the park, which I think looks kind of nice in terms of what we've got there. And yeah, I kind of have a bit of a look around, and I go, okay, what can I do next? And now we're over here at our little staff area and the park entrance, which is the other major thing that I look at doing in this episode. You'll notice that I do have this very consistent style of architecture that I want for this. Sort of the very much the wood with these brick pillars and then the blue. And you'll see I go back and forth on what I want for this roof, and nothing looks right until I find something that looks okay, which I do eventually do. But yeah, it was very much a thing of I knew what I wanted it to look like, and I had a vague idea, and kind of I think it all turns out okay in the end. You can be the judge for yourself, but it's just another bit of set dressing to kind of make it feel more immersive within this world, and to kind of hide backstage from the guests, or at least if they do see anything backstage, they go, oh well, it looks nice. And you'll see I am changing the roof here because I just didn't like what I had. And I think this new roof looks a little better with sort of the aged roof all the way around, with that sort of overhang. And then you can see me here trying to find something to go over the top. And plot twist, spoilers, there we go. Spoilers, I will change that later, I believe. But yeah, you can see me adding this trim around the edge. There's me changing the roof. I told you it'd happen. But yeah, now that I've got this trim in, kind of what I decide to do now is turn around and change the colour of the trim because it just looks too bright where it is. And I know I've got the sun set to about 10 AM in game, but it does just look slightly too bright for what I'm going for. So you'll see me changing it, and I think it is it here? No, this is where I add more pillars. So this is what I like doing around sort of these roofs, is adding this nice blue kind of around them, and I like it because it caps off the end of the roof a little bit more than, you know, just having the end of the roof, because they don't necessarily look pretty. But I think just adding in these planks makes it look slightly more kind of congruent with everything else and makes it fit a little bit better. So you can see me there putting it either side, and then I ultimately decide to kind of bring that forward, which I like. and I just think it looks nice. But yes, this darker blue is kind of a colour that I go for on these bits here. And then I think this is the darker blue that I change all of these to. Yeah, you can see me toying with it here going, do I? And yeah, here I go, yeah, actually that looks slightly better. So you can see me here kind of coming up with more of these planters to stick at the front. So, it's, we had those planters around the queue of the HMS Victorious. Well, I thought actually it might be a good idea to stick them at the front here as well, because it just adds a little bit of colour. And I always knew I wanted something like this with the kind of things in front, and actually I think this just looks nice. You can see me having a bit of trouble there with getting it in, but I managed to. And these laurel bushes that are going up the side, I thought that would just make it look a little bit nicer. And actually, now that I'm watching this footage back, I've got something else I want to do with it all, and that is adding more things like sort of ivy and things creeping up walls, because I think that will add a little bit more just to the overall feel of it. And you see me here now making a start on what is going to be the sign. So every park has a sign, and you can see at the back there, I've somehow, somewhere, deleted a park entrance. I will remember that, and I'll come back to that in a while, so if you're screaming at me, fair. But you can now see me putting in these kind of backing bits for the signs, so that I can put in what is the best part of kind of the new game, which is the editable text. And then lovely little things, and kind of putting them on with, just a nice little font at the front just makes it feel rustic enough to me, and sort of, I don't want to say cheap, but cheap. And ultimately, at some point, I will build a bigger sign out the front, kind of introducing and welcoming to the park and whatever, but I don't really want to touch the outside of the park until everything's financially stable within. But yeah, you can see there I go back and forth, and here's where I realise that the park entrance is missing. So yeah, in they go. And now kind of you can see me toying around with this, and then what I do is, in the original game, in the Western pack, there were these hanging signs that hung from rope, which they were amazing pieces. I really liked them. And kind of soon you'll see that I go back and I add those just to make it feel a little bit more kind of nice, and it's not just signs. Kind of, you've got your ticket holders, you've got your people who need to buy tickets, and then you've got more people who need to get tickets. I don't know what that King Coaster entertainer's doing. He kind of just stumbles around going, I'm here, get used to it. But yes, I'm adding these trims up above to make it look nice, and I think this is where I realise, actually, if I make all the other trims down the bottom darker, then it'll look nicer and it'll go. I think you can see kind of things working through my brain, and here's where I add these kind of bits to the top as well, just making it feel nice and congruent and consistent. Consistent's the right word. And ultimately I will end up using this style over at the lovely little guest block that I've got over there that you can see in the background. But yeah, it's just making it feel rustic and nice. And here I try duplicating things over, and then I realise, whoops, I got rid of the bit that I actually need to duplicate to get everything over and make it easy. But there we go. That's just what it's like. I always remember and forget the right things. And I don't know why I had so much trouble putting these in, because it's easy. It is easy. It's just going, oh yep, click, 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 click. But I don't know why it decided to play around with me, but there we go. That's in. That looks nice. And here, as I mentioned earlier, I'm changing them because it doesn't look right. I told you I was consistent. But yeah, there's that darker, and I think the darker does ultimately look slightly nicer than the lighter. But there we go. And then here you'll see me trying to find a sign to stick under, to put like that, and then I remember that lovely western sign from earlier, which is fun. Now that I've got all of that older thing from the original game, all the older theming, I can now go, oh, I remember this, I remember that, let me put them in. And it's fun. I mean, I wish they'd bring back more. And I know kind of the only things they haven't really brought back are anything from the DLC packs, but it'd be so helpful. I mean, give me back my, my adventure pack, my spooky pack. Give me all of the vintage stuff, all of the studio stuff. Like, that was all really useful. And kind of, I really want to have all of those pieces back because it'll just help. But I mean, I can't complain too much about what we've already got here in Planet Coaster 2 because it's a nice array of stuff, and because they've got all the base game themes in now, it's all good. So now I'm looking and I see, people need drinks, and I can do something about it. I mean, they mostly need food as well, but I will tell you my thought process as to why I don't go for that in a sec. But you can see me kind of hollowing this out here, and as I mentioned in the last episode, this is when I found out that terraforming doesn't take cash out, which is amazing. But you can see me here now, kind of making a start to this nice little shop, and I could swear that there was sort of a pastry bakery shopping game. I was like, where is it? And then I remembered that I was thinking about Bernie's Bakes from Planet Zoo, which, isn't necessarily the best thing to remember going, oh, yes, no, I remember this, but it's actually from the other game. But there we go. So it's just a little cafe with toilets, and I don't end up finishing this episode. I need to go back and do all the details, but that's something that I can go back and do in the next episode. But yeah, you can see me here with kind of this little block, and I like it. It feels kind of cute, I think is the word I'm looking for. And it's just a nice little thing down here outside the HMS Victorious, and I know it's just a stone's throw away from like the main drinks place, but thinking about it, there would be a cafe. There would be a cafe, so you can't really complain. And I don't know why my game does this from time to time. It goes, yes, no, we're putting things at heights that aren't quite what you want them to be, and I go, game, please work. And then the game decides to work. Who'd have guessed? But yeah, you can see me here getting the roof on this, getting all of this done, and now I'm sticking the path in to kind of actually make a little bit of a cafe area. And I was originally going to make it a little bit of a picnic area, make it a bit circular, make it kind of all of this, all of that. And then I go, actually, no, you know what I could do? And I build this little sort of raised platform here, where you'll see in a bit that I pop some of the picnic tables up here and kind of have a little bit of an outlook, a little bit of a picnic area, which is quite nice. I do like it. It's, again, cute. Kind of, it has a charm to it that I think exemplifies what I'm going for best in this park. And obviously I do need to come back at some point, finish like all of this area and just make it seem a little bit nicer and theme it up a little bit more. But at the end of the day, like, it's just a nice little picnic spot, so you can't really complain about that. And having it next to this little cafe, let's say you're here with your grandkids, they go, oh, I want to go on the big ship, you go, okay, you go down there, I'll watch you from down here, and then you go get a coffee and you don't actually watch them, and then they come back and say, oh, did you watch that? And you're like, yes, I watched that, but really you didn't. But there we go. So you'll now see that I'm kind of adding this border around there, and we are actually coming up to the end of this time lapse, so I'll see you in real time. Hello and welcome back to the real time segment. We've got quite a bit done today. Obviously we've got bits of theming done around HMS Victorious, including these nice little flower beds. I might come back and see kind of what little bits I can do around here and there to make it look quite nice. And obviously I've got little pieces around here and the fences all the way around, which I quite like. Next, kind of we got this building around our little staff area kind of done. This is sort of our big backstage. I'm going to look at getting that properly sorted in the next sort of video or so. And this nice little front plaza here we've got done with our lovely, lovely little sign at the front, which I really like. Again, I'll come back again at some point and add little bits and pieces here and there to make it really pop. This bit I still need to look at and that bit over there, but that's fine. This is the final bit I've made a start on, which is our nice little sort of cafe area that I thought actually that'd be nice to have, and sort of this little bit, mostly because of, you know, first needs of the guests, but we move. So, if you have enjoyed this, please give it a like, give it a comment, maybe even a subscribe if I'm lucky, and I'll see you in the next video. Roll that outro.